Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to do another reading Reddit post while doing my makeup. So I thought it would be fun today to talk about some college horror stories. In the last edition of this, we talked about dating horror stories, which are always fun. But I can't really relate to dating stories because I've only ever been in one relationship and it's pretty slay. So I thought that so that I could have some more commentary today, I'm feeling more like I want to talk about it, how I feel, how if I relate, all the things. We are going to instead be reading some college/university roommate horror stories. Now this, if you have been on my channel before, you may know I have experience with. So let's just hop right into reading these. Again, I have not read these yet, so this will be my first impression, my initial reaction, all those things. I will say, just from doing a quick scroll through, these ones seem a little bit shorter than the ones that we did last time, so let's just hop right into it. My roommate was a pretty shy dude. He didn't talk a lot, only had one friend, and spent most of his time playing Halo with that one friend. Eventually, toward the end of the year, he got a girlfriend. Good for him. This was his first girlfriend, and I think he was her first boyfriend too, so they had a weird way of showing intimacy. Oh god, I'm scared where this is going after that. For example, she would regularly spend an hour or more popping zits on his back. Okay, so we're going there. That's where we're going. Okay, can you tell I'm uncomfortable? I'm nervous. He once told me that when he or she had to go to the bathroom, number 2, the other would sit in the bathroom as well to keep the other company. That's weird. That's so strange. They would also sometimes hold hands to prove to each other how close they were. It mostly didn't bother me. One time I walked into the living room and he covered up his junk really quickly with a pillow. I thought I'd walked in on a sexual act, so I was like, oops, sorry guys, I'll get out of your way. She said, no, it's not what you think. I was just trimming his hair. Seriously, he doesn't even have a... Okay. Okay, we're gonna stop reading that there. That's the end of it anyways, but... What? Okay, so what I'm getting from that is we clearly have problems with privacy. Yeah! I have experience with this as well. Privacy? Listen, I understand that we all have different things that we value from our privacy, right? One person might think it's weird to, I don't know, be seen in a towel when coming out of the shower. Another person might go way further and be totally okay with just fully changing in front of their roommate. But if the other roommate feels uncomfortable with one of these things, we need to respect their privacy, please. It's actually not that hard to do, and I am very fired up about this right now because I have experienced very similar things to this in the past. Okay, our next story says, one night I woke up around 2 a.m. pretty late and got up to get a drink. Okay, so it's the middle of the night. This is why you always need to have a cup of water next to your bed, but that's a conversation for another day. While I'm pouring water in a glass, one of my housemates opens his door. His room was on the ground floor, mine was upstairs. These are so scary because you have no idea where they're going. It could be literally anything. That's what's scary about this story for me right now. Walks into the living room in only his boxers and pees all over the TV. I'm just kind of dumbfounded and think, whatever, I'll deal with this in the morning. They didn't say anything? They literally just came in and then peed on the TV and then left? Maybe they were sleepwalking. I don't know. Next day, he gets up around midday, and when he sees the note I left him explaining what happened, he didn't believe it at first. To be fair, he did spend a good few hours cleaning everything, even remotely close to the splash zone, and he was very apologetic, especially to the owner of the TV, our other housemates. This is just so weird. This is so weird. Apparently, he'd been sleepwalking. Yep, and the route he took from his room to the TV was the same route from his room to the toilet at his house. Okay, That's fair. Honestly, that's fair. The jokes were relentless and lasted for months. We even stuck a page from the Argos catalog with TVs on it to the back of the toilet so he'd know that's where to pee now. I'm telling this story from the perspective of my housemate. I was actually the one who peed all over the TV. I'm sorry. Okay, that's amazing. Actually, we worked it out. Okay, so what would have made this like really awful was if responsibility wasn't taken, they refused to clean it up, like that kind of stuff. This is just kind of funny. I think this is just funny. We're gonna have a bad makeup day today, y'all. I can feel it in my bones. I forgot to mention, I do have an Amazon storefront with all the makeup that I use. I'll have it linked in the description box if you're interested in anything that I'm using, since I don't really talk about the products as I'm getting ready in these kinds of videos. I think we're gonna go for like a smoky eye today. Next person says, I'm actually the subject of this one. Okay, why is there more than one person talking about how they're a bad roommate? That's crazy. My roommate freshman year of college was pretty nervous about his soon-to-be new dormitory living situation. You know, moving in with a complete stranger makes sense. What didn't help this fact, though, was that he had been hearing way too many dorm room horror stories of crazy, nasty, or downright terrifying roommates. One of the stories in particular was of a friend of his that had woken up in the middle of the night to his quiet, reserved, brooding roommate standing over him with a knife. I'm gonna pause right there and say, don't Google that stuff. I'm telling you right now, if you're going into college and you're already nervous about like rooming with people, don't Google that stuff, because you will find stuff that you don't want to know. I don't think you want to know this stuff, I promise. Like, yeah, that's terrifying. Like, that's actually scary. Like, not just like, oh my gosh, this roommate is awful. Like, no, that's scary stuff. Enters me. Not particularly tall or threatening, talkative, pretty average dude. I have no idea that my new roommate of one day is pretty nervous about living with me. One not so average thing about me, though, is that I sleep, talk, and move. No. Okay, this is gonna be bad. This is gonna be bad. Well, not so much talk all the time, more like make sleep noises. Whistle, sing, all sorts of stuff. Honestly, so do I. My boyfriend and I lived together these past 2 years, in a dorm at my school. We could do that because it was a public school, so they can't really prohibit co-ed living, whatever. So yeah, we live together, and apparently I talk a lot in my sleep. So does he. We're both very talkative while sleeping, fun fact. I had neglected to tell him this because it hadn't occurred to me to mention it. That kind of feels like when I was trying to find a roommate the first year, which whatever, we're not gonna even go to that right now. All the websites that was on, like, had you talk about that kind of stuff on it. Like, it literally quizzed you on that, because that's sort of a deal breaker to a lot of people, I think. Apparently, during our first night, after I had been sleeping for about an hour, as my roommate was still awake, laying in bed and playing on his phone, I did something. Oh no, what did you do? I'm scared. I sat forward in bed, slowly rotated my head in his direction, and just shrieked my lungs out for a few seconds, then flopped back down and was silent. That's the end of the Reddit. That's the end. That is so funny. Okay, but I want to know his reaction and stuff, because that is actually hilarious. Like, you sit up, turn your head toward them. First 3 weeks of college, my roommate and I shared a common room with 2 other roommates. That's pretty standard here. Standard here, I would say. At least where I'm from in the US. It's like you'll have 2 dorms that are connected by like a common room, if that makes sense. The 2 others were big party animals, cool with me, but one night, one of them goes out, gets absolutely hammered, throws up, etc. So my roommate and I had to clean her up. Next morning, we go to leave the apartment, and the entire place smells like poop. Not figuratively, literally. This I have experience with as well, a little bit differently. I don't know how to explain that. I was never there on the weekends because I came home to work every single weekend, the morning shift at Dunkin'. which now looking back on it is insane that I did that. I don't know how I did that. And let's just say one of my roommates at the time was a very avid partier, and yeah, she would just like come in our room and all the horror stories pretty much. Thank gosh I wasn't there, because I would have flipped out. They would have started hating me a lot sooner, I think, if I was there for all of that kind of stuff. Luckily I wasn't. We checked on our drunk roommate. She's sleeping in her bed and has proceeded to poop herself in her bed and then rolled around in it in the night. How drunk do you have to be? From somebody who's never who doesn't drink, never has, doesn't ever plan on it. I am 21, but no thank you. From me, I'm genuinely, how gone do you have to be for that to happen? Like, oh yes, and she was wearing a thong, so that was even better. No protection, y'all. Literally no protection. We spent the whole day airing out the apartment, and she attempted to clean her bed and sheets without throwing up. It was a memorable introduction, to say the least. Side note, she had an 8 a.m. meeting and went to it with poop on her leg. No joke. Two of my roommates I went to high school with. First mistake, don't do that. Don't do that! But I did have one random roommate, and she was fine. She was fine. But yeah, that first like period of time is crucial stuff. One of my roommates would let her alarm go off and she would not get up. Seriously, she would just let it go on, and we're sharing a single dorm room, not an apartment. Eventually I just started getting up and turning it off, and she would sleep for a few more hours and freak out because she missed class. No regrets. I couldn't put up with that. Okay, this is verbatim something that I experienced, actually. It was so bad, and I never really talked about this because considering all the other stuff that I went through my freshman year of college, like, this was nothing, honestly. But the girl I shared a room with, she was really, really bad at waking up to alarms. She was obviously not a morning person, which is totally fine. I totally get that. But she would set so many alarms in the morning. She was one of the people who would do like one every 5 minutes, whatever, fine. But she would also snooze each one. So it would be like my one day I get to sleep in, and her alarm is going off at like 7:30 for an hour and a half. yeah. Ugh, I never had the guts to get up and turn it off though. I wouldn't have been able to do that, but yeah, that happens. I fear that probably happens more often because I feel like a lot of people in our generation can't wake up to alarms. I don't know what that's like. I've always really been able to wake up to an alarm. So this one says, not really a horror story, but happened my freshman year of college. Okay, that's one way to start a story. Wait, y'all, should I do like early 2000s like light blue eye? Maybe I should do that. That would be actually kind of fun. Okay. One morning at 3 a.m., my roommate fell from his top bunk and hit his head on our mini fridge. Oh, I awoke to him kneeling in the middle of the room yelling sounds. At first thought he was conjuring a demon, but then he told me he just fell on his face. I asked if he needed any help and he said no, so I went back to sleep. Conjuring a demon. Honestly, I awake later that morning and my roommate's nowhere in sight. That's honestly so scary. That's happened to me before too. I open up Facebook and his profile picture is him in a hospital bed and a neck brace. Half his face is purple. I look at the top of the fridge and there's a small dent. Though his face may have hurt, it didn't exceed my emotional pain having been turned down from giving him a ride to the hospital. What else are roommates for? I guess he got a ride from the RA. Yeah, that's rough. Waking up, not knowing where your roommate is, opening Facebook. This was 11 years ago. AK, that's why Facebook. And seeing that they are in the hospital. Yeah, that's crazy. Again, not really a horror story, but a horror story in a different kind of way, honestly. Like, the idea of falling off of the bunk, the top bunk, hitting your head on a mini fridge in the middle of the night. Like, I feel like we've all had experiences where we get scared awake from like a noise or someone waking us up when we're in like deep REM sleep. Imagine being in that deep sleep and then falling off the bunk, the top bunk, and hitting your head on a mini fridge. That would scare you so bad, you know? Somebody said, I think this will be pretty boring, but I need to get it off my chest. We called her the Kraken. She was the most irrational human being I have ever met. I often wonder if the people who hate me, and I'm not gonna lie, there are a lot of them, do they have a nickname for me, like the Kraken? That would be so awesome. There were 3 roommates. We all sucked at doing the dishes. Supposedly it was my turn, although it wasn't, and the majority of the dishes were not mine, but whatever. So she texted me about how I needed to do them right that minute. Well, I was in class, so it needed to wait. She starts talking about how immature I am and irresponsible. I laughed it off because she was the same as me, and I told her it would get done when I got to it. She didn't like that, and somehow got my mom's cell phone number, either from my traitor roommate or her mole in the front office, which would have been illegal. This girl calls my mom. Short story, the Kraken tells my mom to tell me to do the dishes. My awesome, sweet, polite mother called me and said she didn't like the way the young woman spoke to her, but maybe I should just do the dishes. And from then on, keep my stuff separate. That was the last time I did anyone else's dishes for them. Calling the mom is crazy work. Like, you're in class. It's not like you're just like on your phone in your room. Like, what? Yeah, that's actually pretty crazy. Before that, after moving in mid-semester, her boyfriend, Jay, became pretty good friends with mine, B. Jay started going over to B's apartment often to hang out, claiming it was to get away from her. They would periodically fight, and one time we saw scratches on his face. He never touched her first, at least that's how it sounded through the thin walls, but she's always nice to us, and we couldn't tell him what to do. One day, the Kraken decided to fly to another city for the day. Jay didn't have a vehicle, so he borrowed hers to take her to the airport in the morning. B and I were not aware, but he was supposed to pick her up that night from the airport. But apparently while she was on her trip, all she did the entire day was text Jay and berate him for whatever issues they had. So he decided to stay at B's and hang out instead of picking her up, entirely unbeknownst to B and I. There's more. We're not done. Yeah. When I get home that night, the Kraken is furious. Beware of the Kraken. She says Jay is not allowed in our apartment anymore, and since he was at B's apartment, B is not allowed anymore either. Oh, absolutely not, sweetheart. My boyfriend didn't do anything to you, and he's my guest, not yours. After attempting to get me evicted for letting my boyfriend sleep in my room sometimes, hypocrite did the same thing till she got mad at Jay, she eventually figured out the only way to make me mad is to not pay her portion of the electricity bill. That's where we're going. This wasn't a college dorm, but still we had weird rules. Everyone paid their own rent, but the electricity bill had to be in one person's name, and everyone had to be on the honor system that they would pay the individuals back. That's hard, honestly. After not paying for a couple months, my mom texted her telling her the right thing to do is pay her portion, especially since it would be 60 degrees outside and she comes in cold after everyone's in bed, so she turns the heat on for the rest of the night. And this girl's response is that maybe if your daughter didn't spend as much money on weed as she does, she could have covered the bill. What the heck is wrong with you? So much wrong with that. What? This girl's crazy. At least I got her a pretty hefty fine for taking in a puppy and not paying the pet deposit. That poor thing though, she would put it on the balcony all day and leave him there because he wasn't potty trained, and she gave up on him after a week or two. This was in the middle of the summer in Texas. I tried calling animal services but never got a response. Just a stupid girl all around. If you're horrible to animals, you're a horrible person. Preach. Amen to that, sister. Amen to that. So she just gets mad about little things, which happens. There are people that struggle with inconveniences like that, but this is to an extreme. Okay, this is like too far. Too far. Okay, let's do our last story for the day while I put my lips on. My third year in college, I was put in an apartment-style dorm with 4 people I didn't know. As someone with only child syndrome, a lot of things bother me that are little, but there were a few that I think are definitely ridiculous. One of the girls always walked around naked, which I usually wouldn't mind if it weren't for the fact that at least twice a week she would shave her legs in our kitchen sink. One leg up on the counter, the other on the ground, stark naked. Guys, what? Who is raising these individuals? Normalize not doing that, actually. When I got our apartment a new microwave, the same girl caught a bag of popcorn on fire inside of it while I was in class. I returned to find the inside of the brand new microwave completely blackened and the singed bag still in there. When I asked why she didn't clean it up, she said that because it was my microwave, I had to deal with it. I refuse to believe that there are people out there that think like this. That's not okay. She moved out a few days before I did and took our cable modem and one of our cables boxes with her, resulting in me getting charged a couple of $100 for not returning the rented equipment. When I was finally able to hunt her down, she refused to pay up and stopped returning my calls and emails. That's the story of my life, honestly. After that, I never lived with anyone until my fiance and I moved in together a couple years later. He knows better than to shave his legs in the sink. That was our last story today. Here is the makeup. Let me go do my hair real quick and I'll show you the full look. Okay, I tried to do a slick back. It wasn't in the cards for us today, but this is the full look. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This one was so fun. Again, if you have any Reddit forum recommendations or whatever, definitely leave them in the comments or DM me, whatever makes you feel the most comfortable. I hope you're enjoying this little series that we've got going on. I know I am. This is so much fun for me. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. And if you really like me, make sure you follow me on all of my other social medias at CassidyLeeQuinn on TikTok, at CassidyLeeQuinn on Instagram. Go shop my closet at CassidyLee on Depop, and go shop my Etsy at ByCassidyLee on Etsy, linked in the description. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you around. Bye!